Hi, my name is Lexi Karaivanova, and I'm the opinion editor here at Rampant Lines. Today, I am here to share my obsession with gas prices. Anyone that's ever been in a car with me knows the pain and the annoyance of my commentary about gas prices wherever we go. Particularly with 10th Street, if I'm ever driving straight and for an extended amount of distance on 10th Street, you'll hear me comment about how different the gas prices are all on that same street. How you'll have a Shell, a Speedway, a Sheetz, and how they'll have drastically different prices, all within that one same street, and how just fascinating I think that is. But that aside, there is a reason why today it's more relevant than usual, and it's not just a silly little obsession I have. Recently, gas prices have gone up a fair amount, and with that, there's been a good amount of people saying that the gas prices are going to skyrocket, and that they are skyrocketing because of the Biden presidency. And I kind of want to debunk some of that, kind of explain what really goes into how gas prices are set, and, kind of see what role do political parties and presidents really have in that price. So kind of to start off, you'll see that there's just a lot of varying public opinion about the role a president has and whether they can control gas prices. And a Pew Research survey found that depending on who's the president and what political party you affiliate with, that'll change your answer. And so during the Bush era, they had about 71% of Democrats saying that presidents could do a lot about gas prices. But a couple years later, once Barack Obama was president and they were asked that same question, Democrats, about 42% of them said the president had the power to influence the price of gas. And you see that same shift with Republicans as well. 54% during the Bush era said that presidents have power over gas, and then under the Obama presidency in about 2012, it was about 69%. So that's just an interesting thing to consider, is just how a lot of it, the opinion on the president's role is really tied to political party. But regardless of political party, the price fluctuation of gas is mostly tied to supply and demand. Try a little supply and demand. Try a little supply and demand. A U.S. Congressional committee wanted to actually try doing research, kind of figuring out how are gas prices really set. And they set up this nice scenic explanation of how much really goes into the gas that we put in. And so they say it is a worldwide network of countries, companies, and individuals who, using advanced technology and science, take crude oil from the underground or under the seas and put it in tankers the size of 2 football fields, ship it across the ocean to ports in New York, California, and the Gulf Coast, pipe it into refineries, heat it under the most dangerous circumstances, and produce gas in that process. That gas is then piped or barged across the country to terminals where trucks unload it and deliver it to individual gas stations. It's a pretty lengthy process for us to just get gas. So knowing that, obviously, some of that will account into the price of our gas. And you see where they mention New York, California, and the Gulf Coast. So if you have those 3 kind of ports, the further you are from a port, of course, the transportation cost of gas will also play into the role of your gas. And you'll see right here in this little graphic that the regional price of gas does vary, and you can very easily connect it to the distance from a source for gas. So you'll see like this little region down here with Texas, what they call the Gulf Coast region here, has the cheapest gas prices. And, it makes sense when you look at it in terms of where they're getting it from. Regardless of your region or the distance from a source, what we typically pay for in gas is shown in this graph, which is this and the last one, were provided by the U.S. Energy Information Administration, a government department, pretty nonpartisan. And as you can see, the vast majority of the cost of our gas is from the cost of crude oil, and maybe 15 to 20% comes from federal and state taxes. And so particularly they note the federal gasoline excise tax is about 18 cents per gallon. So if you kind of put that in the context of the total gas price, that's kind of minuscule. And so if you're talking about what role the president has, well, there you go. The federal excise tax of about 18 cents for the most part. That's kind of simplifying it, but just something to think about. I mean, this idea of the supply of crude oil and how big of a role it plays in the price is kind of the biggest thing. And so here's another little graphic, because those are really fun and helpful for this. You'll see that the average monthly gasoline compared to the average monthly crude oil prices from 2008 to 2019 practically look identical. It's like you just shifted the crude oil squiggly squig above, like just slightly above, and that's how you got the price for gas. So I mean, there's this really, really close connection to the two. You'll see a little spike around 2008, and I think it's interesting to note that the world crude oil prices reached record levels that year because there was just such a high demand for oil, but the supply could not keep up with it. You'll see the crude oil really closely connected to the oil. You'll see they're very closely related. The U.S. Energy Department, they shared a little fun fact of the day, and they found that in constant dollar terms, the price of gasoline in 2015 was only 7 cents higher than in 1929. So while you have all these fluctuations here and there is still some continuity and consistency and kind of a controlled range, I guess you could say, that our gas prices fall. But again, a lot of it, if you are ever upset with spikes, it's because of the crude oil supply. But if we're looking at the outlook of gas prices now under Biden presidency compared to the Trump presidency, one thing to keep in mind that I feel a lot of people have underlooked is the fact that, especially with the last year of the Trump presidency, where we're facing COVID-19 and we're entering, the pandemic, is that a lot of people were at home, jobs became virtual, and there wasn't really much going out. And so, of course, in the summer of 2020, I remember gas prices at one point being $1.75, and I was blissful. I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest day ever. And then as you started to see the state reopen, it would go back up to about like $1.85, $1.90. There wasn't really a need to go out and drive as often or to get as much gas, which kind of played a role. And now you have the country reopening on a much larger scale. You kind of have the idea of reopening schools coming in. So there's a lot of factors at play in the price of gas and why it could rise. And so here, I'm going to share a little thing where it's kind of the outlook of what the U.S. Energy Information Administration thinks will be the outlook for gas prices. So they do expect for it to increase coming into 2021 and 2022. But still, it's not too high of an increase. I do think when you talk about the outlook of gas prices and specifically what it's going to look like under a Biden presidency, he's not banning fracking, hydraulic fracking as a means to get natural gas and crude oil. He has no intention of banning fracking, and he's made that clear. Him and Vice President Kamala Harris have made that clear. So even though Biden did sign an executive order ending further construction of the Keystone Pipeline, which was a major source for oil, he won't ban fracking, so there will still be plenty of sources to give into the supply of oil for our gas price. But if you are ever curious and want to find the cheapest gas in Greenville or anywhere else in North Carolina even, there's a website where you can type in your location, your zip code, and find the cheapest gas. My personal favorite gas station to go to is the one on Portertown and 10th Street. It's a Sheetz. It has consistently been one of the cheapest places for gas that I found. Worst comes to worst, we'll just go bomb Somalia to get gas, or Syria, because that's what the U.S. is best at, is imperializing Middle Eastern countries for their oil just for our benefit. And I can promise you Biden will continue neo-imperialism in that region. So gas prices are really not that big of a concern.